Hello, hola, bonjour. Tune in every Tuesday to the Dear God podcast.
¿Y qué pasó?
Nah, we talking like it's 1995. Let go of that Wi-Fi. Let's laugh and cry, but never say goodbye.
Primos y primas, que lo que, and welcome, bienvenidos to another episode of Dear God, Are We There Yet? The podcast con tu prima favorita. Soy Alicia, and I'm here to give you another episode. And I have been actually, the past couple days and weeks actually, I've been trying to reorganize the podcast a little bit better to try to see how we can grow the podcast into another aspect. We do have listeners, which is great, which is always surprisingly, and listeners in places that yo nunca pensaba. So thank you for that. And we've been doing this podcast for a year. Well, no, more than that, more than a year. And oh my God, I'm going to make another podcast about my first paycheck with my podcast. And you're gonna laugh, but you're gonna be also say like, yeah, this is what, consistency goes, but it's pretty funny. But I take it everything as a sign of something. So I'm going to do another podcast about that. Not about, how you can start your own. I'm just going to give you the signs that I get about certain things, which we actually will talk about crosswords next week on next week's podcast, so tune in for that. But I want to talk about this week about what do we know for sure in life, because we know death is for sure. We know that is like, we can't escape that no matter what. We know that we can escape some type of illness. And when I say that, I'm saying like even a common cold, that's something that we cannot escape. Once in our lifetime, we are going to get at least the flu, the chickenpox, or algo así, right? But I want to talk about other things that we know for sure, because we live in our lives every single day and we're wondering and wondering and wondering, and everything is based on an outcome that we don't know what's going to be. It doesn't matter si tú, you get your cards read and your astrology tells you whatever it is. It's, you just don't know. Nothing's really for sure in this life, except there are some things that we can kind of go back and forth and be like, well, I think I'm pretty sure about those things. So I'm just going to talk about 5 things that, the next time you are thinking about an unsure moment, or what do you think is sure for sure in your life, instead of pondering on all the things that are not for sure, I want you to take a little una pausa o algo para hablar o pensar en las cosas que estás seguro en tu vida, or things that can be for sure. And the one thing is I want to talk about is that the strongest people have been through the most. I think we can all agree que la gente más fuerte, okay, they have been through the most, right? They have been through ups and downs of roadblocks and have surpassed it. I think that when we think of personal strength, we think of sometimes like success or failure, but we don't look at it as the strength of on top, like after everything you've been through, after everything you're going through, after everything you've experienced, that's that strength to keep on top. And what I mean by on top is just to keep above level ground, or keep your sanity, and we're all going to be stressed every day. So I think we can all agree that the strongest people have been through the most. And so we got to remember that for ourselves, and also for other people. When people go through their emotions and being very like vulnerable with our emotions, we have to understand what they've been through. And I have this very empathetic, compassionate personality, but I also have this personality sometimes that can come off as like, like, let's find a solution, let's do it, vámonos. And I forget that sometimes it's important to just, the same way that I would want to share something and for someone to understand my strengths and what makes me the strongest, is the same thing for other people. So, especially during the holidays now, that people might be in different emotions, que están extrañando su mamá, su papá, su familia, lo que sea. Uno tiene que tener en eso en la mente que they're strong no matter what, and that maybe you, in that 5-second conversation or 5-minute conversation, can really remind them that. So that's just the one of them that I that I always say that we do know that for sure. People will always surprise you. I mean, that's the shirt. We can all agree on that, right? People will always surprise you. In life, people will always surprise you. In all different types of things, because we change as people. And if we are not sure about this statement, we need to think back and say, then look at ourselves and saying, are we holding on too many expectations? You know, people will surprise you in the least expected, and sometimes in a good way, and a growing way, and an opportunity way, and a bad way, whatever way you want to think they will surprise you. I remember in college one time, and this professor I had, and oh my gosh, that I did not have a good relationship with that professor. And the reason why I'm saying this, my college times, is because college is a pivotal moment for a lot of young, for everybody that ever experiences, for some point they're going to go through, especially when you're young. And I was just not getting along with this professor, and I needed to get an internship. And I just, I was communicating with him. I was bringing back information. I was bringing back stuff for him. I was trying to get help, the assistance. I was asking questions. And I was really trying to build a relationship with him, as far as like a relationship as a student and a lump, like, a professor. Like, just, I see how he was with other students, and he would, give them examples, and, let them borrow books and all this stuff. And I was really trying to create a relationship, because I was like, this man is smart. I admire him. He has a lot of great experience in business. And this man was never giving me the time of the day. And it's funny, because I read this right now, and it says people always surprise you. And he said that to me. I think it was like graduation week. And I went to him, and I was just very cold, because I was just like, whatever, I'm done with this guy. I'm done. I'm just done. Like, I don't have to deal with him anyways. He's smart. Let him be smart. And that last conversation with him, he surprised the heck out of me. He gave me this contact, that ended up back in my life, this contact that he gave me way years later. My point is that, the reason why people surprise you sometimes is because people are still getting to know you. People are weary of you. People have their own emotion towards you, against you, whatever it is. It is nothing to do with you. And sometimes, even if it is it's to do with you, you can't, the expectations, you can't have expectations on how people are supposed to treat you. You want people to treat you with respect. I wanted this guy to, give me some rapport and let me borrow books and give me some of his tools or tips or whatever. And in the end, he actually did. But it was because he was weary of me, and I didn't understand why. Well, because I'm a class clown, I was always laughing and stuff, and he didn't know if he could, if I could be taken seriously. And that was something that actually I took with me about, my demeanor and how I am, and can I be taken seriously sometimes in a professional environment, if I'm always laughing and joking or whatever the case. And so you learn something from it, but then you also say to yourself, people will surprise you. It will surprise you what they have to say about you, or they will surprise you how they are towards you. So we can all agree that people will always surprise you. And so, the next time you're thinking about having too many expectations based on family or friends or whatever the case, even your partner or whatever the case it is, like, sometimes it's not about you, and sometimes those emotions or those changes, it's something deeper, and we can all agree that people will always surprise you. So that's the next one. I want to talk about the third one, that, they say that you have to make a few eggs to make an omelet. I love this analogy because failure is necessary. Like, failure is necessary. And if we got to be sure about this. If you raise your hand, if you're listening to this podcast right now, sí, esa verdad, like, for real, failure is necessary. I keep reading this in, like, parenting stuff. I keep reading this all the time, even before. And it's true. Failure, we don't like it. It's icky. It doesn't taste good. We don't like that time in our life, but it is so needed. it brings out something in us that we will never be able to get taught or will never be able to learn or anything without actually going through. It's the one experience, besides a lot of other experiences, that we actually have to go through in order for us to fully understand. And it can be the smallest little failures to the biggest ones. And I love the fact that analogy says that you have to break a couple of eggs to make an omelet. Like you have to break through. You have to, it's not going to take one egg to make an omelet. It's not going to make, yeah, one will make it an omelet, but it's going to make probably smaller than if you have four, and one of them might not even be right to put in there. Maybe the yolk came out, whatever the case is. It takes a lot. And if we have to be sure that failure is okay, and failure is just as important as success, no matter how icky it might sound to us. Um, and especially when we are going through growth spurts in our own life. And the last one I want to talk about today, about what do we know for sure in life, is closure is the most vital piece of anything. Closure is something that is actually, I would have to say, is ongoing. I mean, we can fully have closure on something, on death, on a breakup, on a job loss, on a anything. We can fully have a in that moment, but it's really ongoing, because we are always going to constantly reflect on that moment of what we did and how we felt, because we acknowledged it. People say let go, let go and live and all that stuff. We can let go at that moment. We can say, I don't want to feel this way anymore, and I'm going to let go of this. But in the back of our mind and our subconscious, it will always be there like a little database, because it's going to be one to remind us and help us, or one, and it can hurt us. But closure is important, even if it's for that moment's time. Like when my abuelita, my mama, she died, it was something really, really, really hard for me. Even at her burial, I couldn't even let go of the flowers. There was something in part of me, and I'm like, if I feel like this, I can imagine my own parents, because she was very big in my life. I know I had to find closure at that moment, either that day or the day after, that she is no longer with us, because I know that her body is not here, but I know her spirit is always with us. And closure in those moments helped me grieve. But every single day I think about her, and I am silently grieving in a way that is not hurting me. It's not even a grieving. I would say that it's just reflection of, wow, if those moments she would be here, she would be so proud. She would be with this. She would see my daughter. She would come over. She would teach me this, and that's what I mean by closure is vital, that even in that moment, closure is needed, because we can hold on to certain things in our subconscious, but we do need to be okay with how we feel and how situations happen and how experiences happen, and be ready to say, I may not have accepted this at that moment how I really wanted to, but I am going to close this right now, because in order for me to move forward, I need to put that in the back of my database. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. It was very short today, and it's the two things about we're sure about in life. And number one that I didn't actually mention is love. We can all be sure that love is so needed in this world. No matter how you receive it, love is so much fulfillment in our lives and what we experience. Hasta la próxima. Have a fabulous day, everybody. And I'll see you next week.